Mattis Cole had not been invited to the Concordium survey expedition. He had, more or less, invited himself. "You want to come," said Dr. Ivel Sorn, the expedition's Trinari lead, "to a 7-week geological survey of an uncharted moon. For fun." "For fun," Mattis agreed. "You are aware this is a scientific mission, not a recreational excursion." "I'm aware. You have no relevant qualifications. I have a truck license and I know how to set a broken bone." Sorn had looked at him for a long moment through 4 unblinking eyes, the way most of the Concordium species looked at humans when they were trying to decide whether they were being mocked. And then, mostly, Mattis suspected, because the expedition was short 2 logistics staff and the budget didn't stretch to hiring professionals, said yes. The other 9 members of the expedition treated him, for the first 3 weeks, as something between a mascot and an inconvenience. He wasn't a xenobotanist like Pryatt. He wasn't a geologist like Kalufarn. He wasn't even properly crew, in the sense the Concordium understood the word. Just a big, cheerful, oddly durable creature who fixed the generator when it jammed, told jokes nobody quite got the timing of, and ate things the ship's nutritionist looked at with open alarm. "Why did you actually come?" Pryatt asked him one evening, on the ridge overlooking the survey camp, the moon's 2 thin rings smeared pale across the sky. Mattis shrugged. "Never been to a moon with rings before. Figured I'd regret it if I didn't. That's it. No research goal. No career advancement. Nope." Pryatt's crest flattened in the particular way that meant confusion. "Humans are strange. You're not the first to say so. The disaster, when it came the way disasters usually do, not from the thing everyone had been briefed to watch for, but from underneath it. The moon's crust, stable across 11 prior survey seasons, chose the 4th night of week 5 to remind everyone that stable and dead were not the same word. The tremor started small enough that half the camp slept through the first minutes of it. By the time the alarms caught up to the geology, the ground beneath the Western Habitat Dome had opened into a fissure 40 meters deep, and the dome itself, with 4 of the expedition's 10 members inside, had gone with it. Mattis was awake before the second tremor finished, already moving, because he had grown up in a part of the world where the ground occasionally did this exact thing, and some very old instinct in the back of his skull had never quite stopped listening for it. Sorn. He hit the command tent at a dead run, half-dressed, boots unlaced. "Talk to me." Sorn was on her feet but frozen, staring at the readouts, her mandibles clicking in a rapid, arrhythmic pattern Mattis had never heard from her before. Around her, 3 more of the expedition's scientists stood in the same locked, wide-eyed stillness, bodies that had evolved on a world without this particular kind of catastrophe, minds that had trained for research, not rescue. "The dome," Sorn finally managed. "Kalufarn, Pryatt, Dessa, and the 2 techs, they're still in the dome. The readings say it's still intact. It just fell. We don't." "How far down?" 40 meters. Maybe more. "Air. The dome's sealed. It should hold atmosphere for—" I don't know. This isn't." Her voice cracked, an alien sound made suddenly, terribly familiar. Mattis had already stopped listening for the parts of the sentence that weren't information. He grabbed the nearest length of cable off the equipment rack, checked the winch mount bolted to the transport vehicle, standard kit, meant for hauling survey gear, never rated for anything close to what he was about to ask of it, and started running lines. "Mattis, that winch isn't rated for a person's weight over that distance." "Then it's not rated." "Sorn, I need you to do the thing you're actually good at. Get me a structural read on that fissure wall. Tell me where it's stable, and get everyone else forming a relay to haul cable when I signal." "Can you do that?" Something in his voice, flat, certain, entirely uninterested in panic, seemed to reach past whatever had frozen her. Sorn's mandibles stopped clicking. Her eyes refocused. Yes, I can do that." "Good. Go." The descent took 11 minutes that Mattis would later have no clear memory of, beyond the cold burn of the cable through his gloves and the moon dust smell of the fissure walls close on either side. 40 meters down, the beam of his headlamp found the dome, cracked along one seam, tilted at a sickening angle against an outcrop that was the only thing that had kept it from falling further, air hissing out of the breach in a thin, steady whine that told him exactly how much time everyone inside had left. He found Kalufarn first, pinned under a fallen equipment rack, one leg bent wrong. The two techs were conscious, but too badly shaken to move. Pryatt was working, frantic and half-effective, on a seal patch that wasn't going to hold. "Out of the way," Mattis said, and Pryatt, later, describing this moment to anyone who'd listen, would say she had never in her life been so relieved to be told what to do moved. He didn't have Soren's training in structural stress or Kalufarn's knowledge of the moon's geology or Pryatt's steady hands with delicate botanical instruments. What he had was a childhood spent watching his father patch irrigation pipe under worse pressure than this with whatever was in the truck bed, and a very simple, very old certainty that panicking never once fixed anything, and moving usually did. He got the seal patched, badly, but enough. He got the rack off Kalufarn's leg, splinted it with a support strut and a roll of cable tape, and hauled him bodily toward the harness rig he'd rigged on the way down. He got the tech's breathing steady again just by being loud and calm and entirely, infuriatingly unbothered, the way you talk a spooked animal down from a fence line. "You're not scared," Pryatt said at one point, hauling the last of the emergency air canisters toward the harness line, voice thin with something between hysteria and awe. "I'm terrified," Mattis said, cinching a strap. "Doesn't change what my hands are doing." "Come on, up you go." One by one, he sent them up the line. Tex first, then Pryatt, then Kalufarn strapped and cursing through the pain, until Mattis was the only one left in the tilted, hissing dome, air running thinner by the minute, the fissure wall groaning somewhere above him in a way that suggested it had opinions about how much longer it intended to hold. The cable came back down for him with less than 90 seconds of air left in the dome by his own rough count. He made it up with about 40 of them to spare. He came up over the fissure's lip to find the entire remaining expedition hauling the last stretch of line by hand, 9 sets of alien hands raw from the cable, and behind them Soren on comms with the relay station, voice cracking through the last of the adrenaline as she confirmed head counts. 10. All 10. Nobody left in the fissure. Mattis lay on his back in the moon dust for a long moment, breathing hard, staring up at those two thin rings, and became aware that the entire expedition was standing around him in a loose, silent circle, staring down with an expression he didn't have a word for and didn't especially want one for. "You were the only one who moved," Soren said finally. Not an accusation. Not quite all either. Something rawer than either. "You'd have moved too. Just needed a second to catch up." Mattis sat up, wincing at his rope-burned hands. "You did the structural read. Kept the relay steady. That's the part that actually got them up here. I just went and got them. You went into a collapsing fissure with a winch rated for cargo." "Yeah, well." He managed a grin that was mostly exhaustion. "Nobody told the fissure it wasn't rated for people. Figured it'd work out." Pryatt, still shaking, still smeared in dust, sat down heavily beside him. "Why did you actually come on this expedition, Mattis Cole?" He thought about it, the way he thought about most things, slowly, unhurried, with the ground still trembling faintly somewhere far beneath them. "Told you. Never been to a moon with rings before." "That's not an answer for what just happened." "No," he admitted, looking up at the sky, at 10 shapes breathing steady in the dust around him. "Guess it isn't. Guess some things you don't figure out the reason for till you're already doing them." Nobody had much to say to that. But from then on, nobody at Concordium Survey ever again called Mattis Cole a mascot.